Hello, I am continuing my makeup inventory declutter series, and today we're going to move into primers, powders, and setting sprays. Make sure you stick around to the end of this video because I'm going to give you an update on the maybe bin from my concealer and foundation declutter. All right, let's get into it and go into primers first. Yes, I have a lot of them, and that's okay. We are not going to pass judgment here on the size of anyone's makeup inventory, because that's none of anybody else's business. I have a little basket of primers here, and these have actually been in the to be decluttered for a really long time. I filmed a comparison video on some primers maybe a year ago with the primers in this basket, and these are the ones that I was going to declutter from that, but I never edited or put that video up. So these are primers that are definitely getting decluttered, and I'll quickly go through those before we start in on the rest of these. This Wet n Wild Impossible primer is one that I just didn't understand. People said they loved it. I don't know if you even just saw what happened there. People said they loved it, and yet whenever I would try to use it, it came out like crumbly and hard, and I could not get it to soften and go on my skin. It would squirt out of the tube, crumble into my lap, and I was just done with it. But I kept hearing people say how good it was, especially Andy from Andy Does Stuff. And so I thought, well, maybe there's just something wrong with this tube of it. And so I will try a new tube and see what happens. And I did, and yes, the new tube was so much better. And I have it in here. It is still a thicker product, but hopefully you can see the difference in, like this one, I can't even get it to attach to my skin. It's more white than this one is, and it doesn't really, this one just kind of melts almost immediately into your skin. And this one, I can't get it to go into my skin. So obviously this must have just been dried out from the time I got it. I'm actually very glad that I tried it again because I really do like this primer. It feels like a silicone primer, but it does not have any silicone in it. So we'll start with that one. And this old one is going in the trash, and this one I'm keeping. And these four are all glowy primers, and they simply don't work on my skin. I have mature skin, I'm 58, and I do still have oily skin. I know a lot of people, as they get older, their skin gets drier. Mine has not. I still get very oily in the T-zone. And these glowy primers simply do not do my skin any favors, nor do they help with the lasting power of my makeup. So I am getting rid of these. I have this Wet n Wild Water Drop Primer, the Pixi by Petra Flawless Beauty Primer, this Camelina Plus Strobe Illuminizing Primer, and the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Primer. They're all going, and because they've been sitting around for so long, I am just going to throw these away. All right, let's get into the main primer basket here. And rather than just randomly reach in and declutter that way, I am actually going to organize these into some sort of semblance of order that I can figure out what I have and what I need. Be right back. Okay, so let's start with the long-lasting primers, and some of these categories kind of overlap, but we'll just start this way. So I have the Hard Candy Long Wear Primer 12 Hours. I do really like this primer, so I'm keeping that. The e.l.f. Power Grip, as you can see, it's almost gone, and I think I'm going to stick that in my PUD basket and try to get that used up. Do like this a lot. The e.l.f. Power Grip Primer with niacinamide. I just got the travel size so that I could compare the two, and I actually can't tell the difference between this and the other one. So probably if I repurchase, it will be this one and not the other one, because if you can have niacinamide in it, why not, right? So keeping that. And this Be Bella All Day Seal Primer, honestly, I don't really remember what I think of it. It really is just a silicone slip primer that says that it keeps your makeup on for 16 hours. I don't know that I've tested it for that long, but I prefer this BH Paradise Prime or the Hard Candy for long wear. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pass this along. This is almost new. I got this very recently. I think it might have been in something from Andy, But because I have so many of this type of primers, I'm going to see if I can find somebody that can use this more than I can. So I'm going to declutter that one. And then, as I mentioned, this BH Cosmetic Paradise Prime, I really wish this was still available because this mattifying face primer is my go-to when I need a 15-hour face. And it's getting kind of used up, and I'm going to be sad when it's gone. Then I have hydrating or glowy primers, and as you saw, I just relegated 4 of them to the trash bin, but these are ones that I can actually use without my makeup falling off my face. This e.l.f. Luminous Matte Makeup Primer, really like this. It says it has acai berry in it. It is all but gone. I have maybe 1 or 2 uses left in there if I can scrape some more out with my makeup spatulas. This is the small one of the makeup spatula set that I use to get the last of products out. I will link those in the description box down below, but that e.l.f. is in my use it up basket. The e.l.f. Jelly Pop Dew Primer, I like this one just fine. I think I like the Power Grip better. Actually, I liked the Mint Melt Jelly Primer better than I liked this one, but there's nothing wrong with this, and I will continue to use it and use it up. And then the Ciate London Watermelon Burst Hydrating Primer. This is my second one of this. I got this in an Ipsy glam bag, the regular glam bag, and then used all of that up and purchased this when it came up in the pop-up shop one time. And I really do enjoy using this, especially sometimes when I'm using a very matte foundation. I like using one of these hydrating primers underneath it. And then I put a pore-filling primer just in the T-zone, or maybe a mattifying primer just in the T-zone. So anyway, so I'm keeping that one. And then the Essence Prime Plus Studio Hydrating Plus Skin Refreshing Primer. This has coconut water and hyaluronic acid. I enjoy this primer. It has that kind of white, almost Elmer's glue looking texture to it, but it's just nice and hydrating. Kind of feels almost like a moisturizer. This Rhodile Glass Primer came in an Ipsy Glam Bag Plus, and it's just one of those kind of glowy primers, but I like the e.l.f. Halo Glow Flawless Filter so much better. It's actually a little bit glowier, but it does not make me look greasy. So I am going to get rid of this one and keep this one. And then this one doesn't really fit in any category. It's the Sea Bright Putty Primer. And honestly, I don't really like this. I don't feel like it does anything for my skin. And I use a vitamin C serum in my skincare, so I don't know that I need vitamin C in my primer. So I think I'm going to get rid of this. And then by far the largest collection of primers that I have is the pore filling primer, because I feel like that's my biggest skincare concern, or what I use a primer for. Primarily what I use a primer for is to blur my pores, mattify my T-zone, and help my makeup stay on. The Relove by Revolution, the Pore Vanish Primer, if you saw my Relove by Revolution review, you'll know that this really didn't do anything, so I am going to declutter this one. This JOA Pore Deactivator Pore Minimizing and Mattifying Primer does a really good job. I'm keeping this. The e.l.f. OG Poreless Face Primer is still so good, and I still use it and love it. Keeping that. Along the same lines, the Revlon Photo Ready Perfecting Primer, and I love this and use it, so I'm keeping that too. The Moira Complete Facial Primer Pore Vanishing, I'm keeping this one as well. This e.l.f. Matte Putty Primer, you'll be surprised when you see it because it's almost gone, but I have stopped using it because the last time I used it, it has not wanted to melt into my skin the way it normally does, so I think it has gotten old, and I am going to get rid of this. And I probably won't repurchase this one either. It's not a bad primer, I just have other pore filling primers that I like better. This Revolution Pore Perfecting Primer is along the same lines. It did come with a little scoop. I actually like this better than the e.l.f. one. I have a couple of these that are like this, and they're all kind of, I think, trying to dupe the Tatcha Silk Canvas. And this one I actually like a lot, so I'm going to keep this one. And maybe when I get some of these others out of my collection, I'll be able to see better what I have and make better use of them. And then the Hard Candy also has a putty type primer. This is the Smoothing Primer Balm. And again, it is better, I think, than the e.l.f. I don't know that I need both of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the maybe bin and use one on one side of my face and one on the other and see which one I like better and keep the one that I like better. Because I don't need both of them. They're essentially identical. This one, the L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Base, I found out about through Jen Phelps. And even though it is also similar to these two, I'm keeping this one because I really like it. In fact, I like this one under my eyes sometimes. I feel like it helps fill in some of the fine lines under my eyes. Can't use a lot or it'll get a little creasy, but I actually do like that under my eyes. The Touch and Soul No Problem is a very good pore filling primer. Going to keep that one also. I will work on trying to use some of these up and reducing the number of these I have in my collection, but I really like them and I don't want to get rid of them. I have the OG Smashbox Photo Finish Foundation Primer. Right now my daughter is actually using this one, so it's technically not in my collection because she's using it, but it is still mine and I steal it and use it from her, so keeping that one. And this LA Girl Pro Prep HD Smoothing Face Primer is almost gone. It's also in my Use It Up basket. That project started with only 5 products in there, but that varies now. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less, depending on what I'm trying to use up. And then this is one of the newest primers in my collection, the ZC Multi-Effect Makeup Primer in the Brightening Purple. And right now this is probably one of my very favorite primers. I use this 3 or 4 times a week at least, and really happy with how it makes my skin look. If you haven't seen my ZC video, again, I will have that linked down below and in the cards. This one I haven't actually used yet. I purchased it recently for my Full Face of Essence that I have coming up, and so I will let you know what I think of this very soon. The e.l.f. Good Vibes Only Soft Velvet Primer. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to keep this one, guys. I just bought it. It is basically a clear silicone primer, and how many of those did I already say that I was keeping? There's the Joa and the Moira and the LA Girl and the Smashbox, and this is just the same thing. So honestly, I really think even though I just got it, I'm probably not going to keep this. I'm going to put it in the maybe bin and use it one more time, see what I think of it, and make a decision on it. But I don't think I'm going to keep it. And then I have this e.l.f. Prep and Blur Stick. I don't know if you can even get these anymore, but this is really nice if I'm using a hydrating primer on the rest of my face, to just use this and go over the T-zone, blend it in, just to smooth and blur that area where I have larger pores. This is getting a little age on it, but it still seems to be working okay. So I'm going to keep it for now. But if I find myself not reaching for it, I may go ahead and declutter it as well. So for primers, I started with 33. I am decluttering completely 9. I have 3 in the maybe bin, and I have 2 in the Use It Up basket, and they should be gone within the next week or so. So I'm basically clearing 11 of 33 primers from my inventory. That's about 1/3 of my inventory. And I'm very happy with that because I have this plastic storage container that used to have overflow powders in the top and then 2 drawers stuffed full of primers. And now I have the top drawer with my pore filling primers. The middle drawer has my hydrating and glowier primers. And the bottom drawer has my mattifying and long wear primers. And so now I have all my primers in this container, and the drawers are not stuffed, so I actually can open the drawers. So as you can see by my very full basket, I really like powders, and I have a lot of them. But there are some in here that I don't use, and so I'm going to go through and see if I can slim down this collection a little bit. I'll be right back after I sort things into powder foundations, pressed powders, and loose powders. I have 4 powder foundations, and this one's going to be easy because I know I hate one of these powder foundations and I love the other 3. The one I hate is this e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation. For one thing, it's way too light for me, but even more important is, and you can see it's kind of broken up in there, but even more than the color is it looks heavy and cakey, and it doesn't last on my skin. I did do a video on this, and if you want to see it, I'll link it in the cards and down below, but this did not work at all for my skin. And so I think because it's broken, I'm really just going to throw it away. This is my absolute favorite powder foundation. This was a repurchase and it's brand new. I've already used it, but I love it very much. Also have a video on this one and you can see that one linked also. I'm actually probably going to do a video where I compare these three because I think that this is my favorite, but I also really like this Revolution Conceal and Define. I've had this in P2 and P3. Either one of them can work. They call it a satin matte powder foundation, has hyaluronic acid and cannabis sativa, and I really like this. I have completely used one up, and this is my second one. The compact is falling apart. There's just like this little sticky thing right there to hold this on, and it doesn't stay on anymore, but that's okay. And then the L'Oreal Infallible, I really haven't used all that much because I think shortly after I got this one and I just really, really loved it. But what I want to do is like put these two up against each other and then put the winner of that one up against this one and see if this really is my favorite or if it's just my impression. So if you'd like to see that comparison video, give me a thumbs up and let me know. Next, let's look at the mattifying setting powders. I have the Relove by Revolution Super Matte Powder. Did a video review of products in here. This one has pink clay and niacinamide. I really like it. The Rimmel Stay Matte Mattifying Loose Powder is a relatively new purchase for me, and it is kind of a pink toned powder that's really brightening. I'm still testing this. I've only had this one about a week, and so I am trying to determine how I feel about it, but right off the bat, I really like it. And then the classic OG Rimmel Stay Matte with the horrible lid that always breaks and won't stay on. But this is such a good powder, and if I need a touch-up or I need to make sure that I'm staying matte, like for the stage or something like that, I use this one, and this one goes in my makeup kit with me when I go to the theater. So those three are all staying. These two are my go-to under eye setting powders, the number 7. This is definitely the second, and it might be the third one of these that I've had, but I love this for under my eyes, and occasionally I use it on my whole face too, but primarily I save it for my under eye setting powder. But then at the end of last year, I picked up this Moira Set and Correct Finishing Powder, and it has these 4 colors in it that are color correcting. Generally, I just swirl in and get all of them, but sometimes if I have a little extra redness, I'll go into the green and put that over the red spots, or I'll use these two together for a more brightening effect under the eyes. Again, generally use this under my eyes. Very occasionally will use it on my whole face. But these two are also favorite powders that aren't going anywhere. So far, we haven't had much of a declutter, but let's go into the loose powders. This is by far the biggest collection, and I think we're going to be able to get rid of something here. I am going to pick out the ones that are absolutely not going anywhere, and that is the Maybelline Fit Me. I have repurchased this one multiple times, and then the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Translucent. This is also a repurchase. So those two get to stay, no questions asked. This e.l.f. is the corrective yellow, and I am not keeping this. This is like fluorescent yellow, and it looks yellow on my skin. It is not good for me, so that's going. Right now, even though I love e.l.f., the two that I'm decluttering are both from e.l.f., but there'll be others too. This e.l.f. Beauty Shield, however, I do really like, and I am going to be keeping that one. It is an antioxidant armored setting powder. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but I do like this one. This is sheer natural, so that one gets to stay. And then this is a more recent purchase, the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. Again, like the Rimmel that I had, this is more of a pink-toned brightening powder, and it also gives just a little bit of a soft focus kind of glow. And even though I've only had this a short time, I've come to really like it. The Essence My Skin Perfector Loose Fixing Powder says that it has an instant blur effect and a natural matte finish. The color's 05 Fair. This is not one of my favorite setting powders. It's not bad, but it's not a great color for me. It's a little bit yellow toned, and since I have so many other powders, probably going to declutter this one. However, I will keep it for just a little while longer because I have an upcoming Full Face of Essence video with some of their new products. And I don't remember if I got a new powder or not. So I'm going to keep it until after that video at least. Okay, so now we're down to the ones that I really don't reach for. And this Hard Candy Chilling Wonder Powder, it's a Sheer Envy loose powder hydrating. And this is one of those powders that when you put it on, when I first got it and put it on, it would have like a cooling feeling to it. But that is gone. And so I'm wondering if now it has dried out and there's not very much left in here. So I think what I'm going to do with this one actually is put it in my PUD basket, Project Use Up the Dribs and Drabs, and see if I can just use this up. If I use it a couple of times and realize that it's kind of dry and doesn't look that great on my skin, I will declutter it immediately. But for now, I'm going to put this in the Use It Up basket. This Monster powder from Benzier with this weird little raccoon on there. I got this from Temu when I did a full face of Temu makeup. And again, will be linked if you want to see that. It was a good powder. There was nothing wrong with it. It's just too dark. So I am going to declutter this one. This AOA Studio Perfect Setting Powder. I honestly don't remember what I think of this. And so I am going to, just like with my other declutters, have a maybe bin, and I'm going to put it in there and use it and see if I can figure out what I think of it and then make a decision on whether it stays or goes. This She Glam Insta Ready powder is a dual powder. There's a pressed powder in the top, and then when you open it up here, you get a loose powder. And this one I used for a while, and it's not a bad powder, but I have so many powders, and this one just doesn't get reached for. So I am going to declutter this one, see if I can find it a new home. And then the last loose powder I have is the Beauty Bakery Flour Setting Powder. And again, don't really remember what I think of this. It feels really soft and silky, and I think it's a good powder. It just gets buried because I have so much. So this one, along with the AOA, are going to go in the maybe bin. And I guess technically this essence is also in the maybe bin. I'm going to use it one more time before I decide what to do with it. All right, now we're going to pressed powders. And this one is going to be a little bit easier. The CoverGirl Clean Fresh powder, this is fair. This one is also in my PUD basket to be used up because there's very little left of it. Really do like this powder. In fact, this is the second one of these that I have owned. This LA Colors Mineral Pressed Powder, it is a really soft powder, but it's a little bit yellow. And so I don't reach for this because it darkens my foundation and not in a good way. So it's very inexpensive. Bought this when I did a full face of LA Colors. It's a good powder, just not the right color. So I'm going to move that one out. And the same thing with this Bare Minerals Bare Skin Perfecting Veil. Not only is this a little dark, I think it's gotten a little old because it's kind of dry and powdery and doesn't really set well on the skin anymore. So this one is going. This Malibu Glitz setting powder, did I get this with the Temu haul? I think I'd have to check that, I'm not sure. But it is a glowy powder and it does not pick up well. It's kind of gotten hard panned and it really is just kind of very shiny. So I think they were going for kind of a hourglass kind of a look. But I don't like that much glow on my skin because I have oily skin. So I am going to declutter that one. The Pure 4-in-1 Pressed Mineral Makeup. I believe I got this in an Ipsy, and this is really old and feels really dry and kind of crunchy. So I'm going to declutter that. This Moira Soft Focus Waterproof Setting Powder in 200. I love this powder. It's not going anywhere. It's soft, it's silky, it's waterproof, and it does a really nice job blurring and setting makeup. So yes, I'm keeping that. And then finally, this is brand new to my collection from ZC. I just put up a video reviewing some products from ZC, and this powder was one of them. And I am also keeping this. It is a lovely soft powder and not going to declutter this besides its beautiful packaging. And then the final powder that I have that didn't really fit in any of the other categories. I mean, it is a pressed powder, but it also has an SPF of 30 in it. And I got this because when you have a full face of makeup on, it's a little difficult to reapply your SPF. When we went to Florida, I thought this would be good to have because we would be out in the sun, sometimes for hours, and so I would be able to reapply SPF using this powder, and so I am keeping this for that purpose. I don't use it very often because, honestly, I don't spend a lot of time outside, but on those occasions when I know I'm going to be out for all afternoon or something like that, it's good to have this in my purse just in case. Oh, and I do not need to keep this in my maybe bin for the Essence Full Face because when I said I didn't remember if I had another powder, of course I have another powder. I have my favorite powder. You guys, sometimes my brain, I tell you. So I am going to declutter this because there is no chance I will use this if this is in my collection. So, okay, this is exciting to me because I had powders overflowing out of this bin, full in this drawer, and then also a couple just on the shelf. And now all the powders that I'm keeping fit in one bin. So I started with 26 powders. I am keeping 15 and I have 2 that are in my pud basket that I'm going to try to use up, but depending on whether this one's dry or not, it might be going. So 17 keeping, but hopefully those 2 will be gone within a month or so. I have 2 that are going in the maybe bin so that I can see what I think of them and if I want to keep them. Ideally, I would only keep one of them because otherwise they're not going to fit in my bin. And then I have 9 that I'm decluttering. Starting out of 26, that 9 are leaving my collection. That's like 1/3. So I think I did pretty good. And then the final category that we're going to go through today is setting sprays. And I actually don't have very many setting sprays. I've had more in the past and I have gone through some and used them up and have really kind of settled on what I like. And so therefore I haven't been purchasing a lot of setting sprays. So first of all, I'm going to pull out what I know is staying, and that's the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. There isn't much left in this one, but I purchased a new one when e.l.f. was having their 40% off sale recently, so I have a backup. Seriously, this is like the 3rd one I bought already, so this would make number 4. If I could only have one forever and always, it would be this one. And this looks like another of the e.l.f. Stay All Night Microfine Setting Mist. It's not. It is the Essence 18-Hour Fix and Last Setting Spray. And the mister on this one is crap. It spits all over your face and it's just really horrible. So I put the setting spray into a bottle that I know that I love the sprayer on it, and wonder of wonders, I actually like the setting spray, but I can't recommend it because the bottle is horrible, and if you don't happen to have an empty e.l.f. setting mist bottle around, then you're stuck with a really horrible sprayer. So the thing that this has going for it, however, is that it is alcohol free and the e.l.f. is not, but I don't have dry skin, so it doesn't bother me that there's a little bit of alcohol in some products. So anyway, I will keep this and continue to use it until it's gone. The other one that I know is not going anywhere is the Urban Decay All-Nighter. I got this in a 2-for-1 deal. I believe it was on QVC, and gave one to my daughter, and I have the other, and I'm very glad to have it. I like it. I don't know that it works better than the e.l.f., but, you know, variety is nice. This is a little sample of the MAC Fix Plus, and there's just the teeniest little bit in there, and it is so hard to spray out of this that I am going to declare this done and get rid of it. And the same with this Cover FX High Performance Setting Spray. This is 24-hour wear. I don't know that I've ever tried to wear my makeup for 24 hours, so I can't comment on that claim. I didn't really like the sprayer on this either, so I would often just use this for wetting my brush when I was going to be putting on a shimmer. And there's not enough in here really to get any out anymore, so it just kind of spits. So this one is gone. This Fenty Beauty Baby What It Do Makeup Refreshing Spray, I just don't use this because of that whole dewy thing. When I use dewy products, I end up just looking oily. So I am going to pass this along. There's not a lot left in here. It's about half full, but my daughter has drier skin than I do, and she might appreciate this. The e.l.f. Hydrating Coconut Mist, I think this was a free gift with an order, and I've had it for a while and I never use it, so I'm going to get rid of this. And then the LA Girl Setting Spray Fix and Set Makeup for Extended Wear. I got this, I believe, when I did a full face of LA Colors, and I always get LA Girl and LA Colors mixed up, so I think I bought it for that, and then realized it was LA Girl and not LA Colors. but I think I'm going to keep it because these are the only ones I'm keeping right now. I started out with 8 setting sprays and I'm keeping 4, and I think that's pretty good. I got rid of half of them. Okay, so these were the concealers that were in my maybe bin to look into and see if I was going to keep them or not. The Kosas is definitely going. I don't like the way it sits under my eyes. It's too emollient and I think that it's going off, so that is going in the trash. The Believe Beauty, I don't know what I was thinking, telling you guys that I wasn't sure what I thought of this, because I used this once and remembered that, yes, I actually love this concealer. This is actually my second one, by the way. I used one completely up already, and so this is going back in my collection. I actually do have an issue with this concealer, and it's not the concealer itself, it's the component. The last time I used it, the little doe foot came off inside the tube, and this is the second tube of this that has happened with. And so I am actually not going to recommend this, unfortunately, because the concealer is really, really good. But if I've had 2 that have fallen apart, even when they're not very old, then I don't think that's very good quality. Dollar General did replace the first one that happened to. I haven't tried yet to take this one back, but I've had it for a while, so I'm not sure if they will or not. The AOA Studio Liquid Concealer is too light and too yellow, and I'm going to declutter it. The Jekka Black is a fine concealer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. I'm going to keep it and use it. The Maybelline Superstay, I like it, but this color is not very good. It's a little bit yellow. And so because I have so many concealers that work amazing for me, I'm going to declutter this one. The Maybelline Fit Me Concealer, even though neither of these colors is perfect for me, mixed together they are perfect. There's another shade, I believe it's 11, that's called Vanilla, that is my perfect shade. This one's 5, this one's 10, but if I mix them together, I can make them work. So I'm going to keep these and continue to use them, mixing them for the right shade, because they give such a great finish, especially when I'm using a lighter finish or lighter coverage foundation. These are nice to use with that. And then I had these 2 brightening pens, and the idea with the CoverGirl and the e.l.f. brightening pen was to use one on one eye and one on the other and see which one I liked better. And I did that, and the e.l.f. was the winner. So I'm going to keep the e.l.f. and declutter the CoverGirl. So that is 4 more concealers leaving my collection. But the most exciting news is that my concealers now all fit in one drawer. However, I have 2 drawers that they can go in, and so I'm going to use them both, but mostly so that things don't get buried in the bottom and I can see what I have. Okay, so what I did was I put the ones that I have 2 of over here and then left the others over here, and that'll help me be able to see what I have so that things don't get buried and everything gets used. All right, and then the foundations that were in my maybe bin, again, I don't know what I was thinking. I love this foundation. I put this on and was like, why? Why am I not wearing this all the time? It is beautiful. So this is going back in the collection and I will be using it. The LA Colors Truly Matte is fine, but it's a little bit light. I like the finish of it and I like how long it wears, but I really need a little bit darker color. I have a lot of foundations that I have to mix, and I really don't need this one, so I'm going to pass this along. The Hard Candy Glamouflage, I have 2 colors of this because this one is too light. This one, Linen, I actually can make work, so I'm going to keep Linen and pass Ultralight on to someone else. But I did use this, and I really liked how it looked and how it wore. And then these 2 AOA foundations, remember, I don't know if you watched the video, but if you did, you'll remember that I said one of them I liked and one of them I didn't. And in the time since I've done that video, it's been a couple weeks at least, I haven't used either one of them. So I didn't care enough to find out which one I liked and which one I didn't. And so therefore I'm going to declutter both of them. So 4 more foundations are leaving my inventory. And now all of my foundations fit in one basket rather than the 2 that they were overflowing from before. If you like declutter videos, please give this one a thumbs up. Make sure that you're subscribed and your notifications are turned on so that you won't miss the next declutter in my series where we're going to go through bronzers, blushes, and highlighters. I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.